Let's say, for example, if the entirety of Australia decarbonizes or a number of countries decarbonize, but the rest of the world doesn't take this challenge seriously, we are not going to be able to move the needle on reducing the overall emissions within the clean energy space. Hi, I'm Zarek. I'm a consultant in the energy and climate solution space.
Hi, I'm Nicholas. I work for Snowy Hydro and I'm a current student at the AGSM.
And today we're going to be talking about clean energy for all. So what are you studying at UNSW? And if you could just elaborate on what motivated you to undertake that.
I'm studying MBA Executive at the AGSM at UNSW. I studied a science degree at uni originally, and the world's constantly changing, and I really wanted something to help me evolve, help me be a better leader, a better professional in my career.
I studied the full-time MBA here at Australian Graduate School of Management, AGSM. One of the reasons why I wanted to do the MBA is prior to the MBA I was working predominantly with engineering firms, and I felt like I was going into the weeds of the technical solutions. What I wanted to do was get a macro level understanding of a lot of the problems that we were confronted with. So Nicholas, how are you applying what you learned at AGSM in your work today?
Everything I'm learning, I'm applying to what I'm doing. I'm working on one of Australia's biggest energy projects, renewable projects, decarbonisation projects. And even though I work in a digital space, it's really applying to all aspects of it. It's helping me communicate with others, being more of a leader and more robust.
How do you think leadership plays a role in what you're doing at the moment?
I think leadership is really important. One of the key aspects of leadership is strong communication. I think there's a lot of noise inside the energy industry when it comes to what clean energy is or where do we get our energy from. So I think what's really important as a future leader, as a current leader, is being able to communicate what does a future really look like for us here in Australia, across the world.
Stakeholder engagement plays an absolutely vital part in the clean energy transition. Whether that's working with public entities or private entities, I believe it applies the same. So working with New South Wales government, we ensured that we reached out to the communities, the entities that were both directly and indirectly affected by the works we undertook. But not only individuals that were external to the organization, but we consulted internally extensively as well on what are some of the solutions that we've previously considered, what are some of the other solutions that we may not have considered thus far, and what are some of the gaps in our understanding that could be informed by the stakeholder engagement.
Why did you get into consulting for energy projects?
Look, prior to consulting, I was working with New South Wales government, and towards the later half of my time at New South Wales government, I wanted a change of pace. That's one of the key reasons why I joined a consulting firm. There's a few things that have changed since my time working with New South Wales government. I've had an opportunity to work on more than 4 projects in a year, whereas when working with New South Wales government, I worked on a single project for about 3 years. And you also get to work with clients from different jurisdictions and different industries. All clients that are focused on energy and decarbonization, all clients that are passionate about reducing the carbon emissions and their overall footprint. What does a typical day look like for you, Nicholas?
It's always very different. It's always really, really exciting. So I work in the digital space. So I am responsible for digital engineering, geospatial science and surveying. So I get to see a lot of visualizations. But what I really enjoy about what I do in my role in the day-to-day is bringing to life what people don't usually see. So bringing just say a visualization to a comms team, a visualization to the community, a visualization to an engineer so they can do their work. That really excites me and gets me out of bed in the morning.
So Nicholas, in your opinion, what are some of the biggest challenges that we're confronted with within the clean energy space?
I think the biggest challenge is that fossil fuels are declining. So we need renewables to come in, and how that occurs is really, really complex. Whenever we think about energy, we do think about putting the light switch on, but also energy in our cars. How are we going to be driving? What type of fuel source are we going to be driving? So I think the most complex thing is that it's not going to take one solution to solve the clean energy change that we're going through. It's going to be multiple different solutions, and how that comes together and how we transition is going to be really important in the future.
For me, two things stand out when we think about some of the challenges within this space. One is the nature of the problem itself. I believe it's a collective action problem. Let's say, for example, if the entirety of Australia decarbonizes, or a number of countries decarbonize, but the rest of the world doesn't take this challenge seriously, we are not going to be able to move the needle on reducing the overall emissions within the clean energy space. So essentially what we're confronted with is a collective action problem where there's a lack of accountability and jurisdiction. How do we ascertain that I or anyone else, individuals or countries, understand what they're accountable for and what the jurisdiction is in terms of carbon emissions, who would ensure that those carbon emissions are reduced, so on and so forth. The other challenge that I see is the long time horizons associated with carbon emissions. Look, environmental challenges are very easy to see and understand. You go past a river that's been polluted, you can tell from the stench, it's stinky, or you see the dead fish floating there. Those things are very tangible issues that people understand and see. Whereas when we're dealing with challenges associated with climate change, it is very hard to show that tangible impact that people's actions are having on the only planet that we've got. So for example, the sea level rise has been about 0.06 inches for about 100 years. And over the last 20 years, we've seen that go to about 0.12 inches. Now that is very hard to explain to the common citizens, to the ordinary person on the street. So for me, the two key challenges that we're confronted with is the complexity associated with the collective action problem and the long time horizons associated with it. So Nicholas, have you seen those problems play out in your workplace, in your experience?
Yeah, so I'm currently working on a mega project, a hydro mega project in Australia, and it's a really long-term project. And sometimes it's really hard to imagine what that looks like in the future, but we know, and I know, that it's really important to do these big projects now to ensure that we have a clean energy future. So what does clean energy for all mean to you?
Look, for me, clean energy for all means that we build the social license as we decarbonize our economies. We need to ensure that we bring the communities along the way as we deploy more renewable solutions in our communities. So what does clean energy for all mean to you?
It means access to clean energy for our remote and regional communities, as well as our capital cities around Australia.